Welcome back to Mangastorian. Today I thought it'd be fun to talk about a character that we don't hear much about in the universe of My Hero Academia, and I'm going to be giving you a spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about a character that shows up in chapters 330 to 334. And on top of that, I mean, you read the title of this, it's the USA hero who has barely, if at all, I don't think they've been mentioned, but I don't want to say that they haven't and then, oh, they were brought up back in chapter 50. But what I'm getting at is if you're an anime watcher and you're not reading the manga, this is way ahead of where I think the anime is going to end in the next couple of seasons, because there's still quite a few things to do before we even get there. But I want to tell you about the USA hero, and then we're going to talk about what they did to the story in only 4 chapters that, in my opinion, completely got the writer out of just a story trope hole that they got themselves into. So first off, let's talk about the USA hero. They're the #1 USA hero, and they admire All Might tremendously, to the point of they changed their hairstyle. He had 2 tufts, and they decided that they would have 6 tufts to kind of mimic him and carry on his ideals. Their name is Kathleen Bate. And they work with the U.S. Army or government because one of their powers, which isn't really a power, is they have their own Air Force fleet that fly with them and carry them to their locations. Kathleen's ability is called New Order. Now, New Order is interesting because she can just say something and it happens. If she were to say, Benny can't breathe air, I wouldn't be allowed to breathe air anymore. She can say that the air around me is super heavy and can squash me, and that would make that New Order. There are limitations to this power. She can't give herself a strength beyond what is normally measurable. She can't even make herself stronger than All Might. But she is allowed to basically change whatever is going on around you. And because of that, it's an incredibly overpowered ability. I mean, think about it. She just says something and it changes things. She can say Deku can't use his powers. Deku doesn't have a quirk. And that would be what happens, or at least in theory, what would be what happens. We didn't get to see this quirk actually get used that much in general, but I'll explain that when I go over the chapters. And if you're wondering, because I brought this up to Dan when we were talking behind the scenes about the character I was going to talk about today, yeah, it sounds a lot like the Rick and Morty villain, Retcon, where Retcon could just say something and it would alter the entirety of the continuity to make it actually happen that way. Yeah, that's kind of what she has the ability to do. And she uses this in crazy ways. Now, we got to go to chapter 330 to 334. It's a very short 4-chapter spread. And the pages in each of these chapters are actually shorter than normal, ranging between like 15 pages to 12 pages. They're very quick pages, but enough to make you admire this character, realize what the USA had under their belt this whole time, and this allows the writer to get himself out of a hole that I think he dug himself into. I've run into this hole, but in order to understand that hole, let me explain what was going on with the other character at the time. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything drastically, but I do got to talk about Tomura Shigaraki. Shigaraki? We're going to go Shigaraki. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I read the manga, so I'm trying to remember. I haven't actually watched the anime in quite a while now. So anyway, Tomura at this point is all-powerful. He has acquired so many abilities that he can kill anyone, do anything. There is literally nothing that can stop him. The only thing he has left to do is acquire Deku's quirk, All for One, or One for All. I always mix up the 2 of them. I'm pretty sure it's All for One. I'm pretty sure it's All for One that Deku has, but if I'm wrong, nope, Dan's shaking his head, it's One for All. The names are too similar, okay, man? Anyway, Deku's quirk, One for All. And what happens is, basically, that's all he has left. They've made Tomura too powerful. Now, I've run into this similar problem when I make a D&D game, and you want to make your boss as all-powerful as you possibly can until you realize, shit, how are they going to fight this? Because that's kind of where Tomura was at like 330, chapter 330. Because at this point, even I, the reader, was like, how are they going to stop him? I don't want to spoil what's happened before this, but there was real displays of power going on. So Kathleen is on her way into battle. She is flying over against the wishes of the U.S. government. She's like, I'm going in. I am going to help. Japan is currently destroyed, and they are being suppressed by this guy, and I need to bring my power over to help him. So she rolls in there, literally riding on the back of a jet. The whole fleet is flying in, and she's just like, USA! That's pretty much what she's doing, riding in. She's going in. We get a little brief overview of New Order. And Tomura's Shigaraki's trying to figure out, like, okay, what's the weakness? What's the weakness of New Order? So she does a few things like early on, and Shigaraki realizes that she can only use like 2 new orders at the same time. She can only maintain 2. One of which is always her increased strength, ability, agility, speed, all that kinds of stuff. So they go back and forth for a minute. Now, if you don't know Shigaraki that well, his power is decay. That's his main power, which at this point is insane. He can decay anything around him, which is the big issue they're running into. So if he touches her, not only will he take new order, but he'll also decay her into existence, like gone. She's out. So she can't let him touch her. So they're going back and forth. She's avoiding him pretty effectively. And that's what he sees the next problem with her power. So she decides, I forget the exact line, but she basically states that Tomura Shigaraki will not be able to breathe, or cannot breathe, or cannot suck in air. That's the order. It's along those lines where the order itself should just kill him, and it's over. But it doesn't work, which presents us with the second weakness to her power. That she can hold 2 of them at the same time, and she has another weakness that we've discovered, which is the person whose name she states has to be aware that they are that person. Now, without going too deep into it so I don't super spoil it, Shigaraki at this point isn't sure who he is, because he has all for one, the evil version in his body, and it's in there, and they're kind of combating as to who he is. If you're following what's going on with Deku, he's got all the original users of One for All inside of him, while Shigaraki's dealing with the same problem. But the issue with him is that since they're all evil, he's kind of losing his sense of identity. And since he doesn't know if he is All for One or if he's Shigaraki, when she says that, it doesn't work. And this is the first thing that catches her off guard, because her powers aren't working on him. So he starts doing a bunch of other crazy things. They start going back and forth. She decides to go straight into her ultimate move. This is only like chapter 331. We've literally only gone like 2 chapters, maybe a third at this point. We've barely progressed, and she's already like going to my ultimate move. I forget the phrasing, but she basically creates a giant version of herself, like a see-through. She controls the air is what it is, and it's basically drawn as a giant air form of herself. She then grabs Shigaraki with this ability, slams him into the ground, into a crater, and is bombarding him with all of the jets, missiles, powers, everything that she has. And she is coming in with a follow-up that if it hits him, it will obliterate him into existence. This is her Hail Mary. She's creating a crater into the ground, burying him into that. And my phrasing there is intentional, because they're burying him. At the last second, he realizes what is going on, and he thinks of the ultimate way to get out of it. He touches the ground behind him, and he decays, and he decays, and he decays, and he buries himself even further beneath the impact point of her attack. So they're all exciting. All the jet flyers and everyone, they're all excited. They're like, we did this! We beat him! We beat the big bad that Japan couldn't beat! And she sees this pinpoint hole right in the middle of the crater. And she's like, no, we didn't. What is that? And he comes jumping out, catching her off guard, gets to her, and he grabs her by the head and calls it. I've won. I've acquired new order. She slowly begins to decay. She has said something that's going to delay it, but the issue is she can't prevent her death. Because she's got something in place that she said to New Order. He takes the power from her. She can't do another one. So she is now slowly decaying. She's dying. Shigaraki is all excited. He jumps away. He's pulled it off. And then he explodes. And then he explodes again. And again. And again. And the panels just show him just popping like popcorn, going off on him. And you don't know what's going on. And you realize, because Kathleen, the hero, tells you she did one last order to New Order before it was stolen. New Order will reject all other quirks or won't work with other quirks. The exact wording I'm a little fuzzy on, but that's what she says. So having New Order in his body of all of these quirks is just wiping out abilities randomly. They're exploding all over the place. And this power is so powerful, he doesn't want to just get rid of it, and that's another problem. He can't just ditch a power. He can't just throw New Order away. He has to pass it on to somebody else. But if he passes it on to somebody else with a quirk, then that person's going to start exploding internally. So Shigaraki's just popping left and right. And while he's going down, we cut back to Kathleen and her buddies, her flyers are like, we realize what she did. In her last act, She did the most damage to him that anyone has done. And she gives a final salute to the troops. And she just decays away into nothing. While this is going on, Shigaraki's trying to figure out an answer. He's exploding left and right. Random powers are being just wiped off the board. We don't know what he's losing. And I think this was the smartest idea the writer ever did, because at this point, we've weakened him. We can possibly defeat him, but we also don't know exactly what he lost. So we can still use any power that they want to use, but he doesn't have every power. He can't just do everything, which is how the USA hero set up the heroes for the final fight, because they couldn't even approach Shigaraki at this point. They couldn't get near him. But what they did decide is that he has been weakened enough and will take at least like a month to regenerate, or like 3 weeks. They got to make their move now. And that's how we go from Shigaraki being so powerful, I have no idea how they're going to fight him, to a real final fight where we get to see real battles happening. And I'm not going to spoil any of that, just like I tried to avoid spoiling as much as I could up to 3:30. But that is the USA hero, Kathleen Bate. And she's one of my new favorites in My Hero Academia. And they managed to make her one of my favorites in the 4 chapters she arrived in before her own death. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think down below about me talking about my favorite moments in manga. We've got a few other things planned, like I'm going to talk about what's been going on in the Dragon Ball Super manga post-anime. We're going to be talking about my journey, catching up on the One Piece stuff. I thought that'd be a lot of fun to talk about. We're also going to talk about some of my favorite manga that you probably haven't heard of, or maybe you did and haven't read it, like Junji Ito's work. A lot of horror stuff. All of this is what I'm planning here at Mangastorian, and I also want your suggestions, because I want to know, what do you want to see me talking about? I like to get excited about stuff like this moment in manga, and I think it'd be fun to just tell you about the moments in manga that got me really excited and really amped up, and I want to do that here. But I need to know if you want this, if this is the kind of content you're looking for. We're gonna try to mix things up. Also, I thought it might be fun to talk about all my weird statues and stuff that are anime related, and like Arknights and stuff. But hey, we'll talk about all that later. Like, subscribe if you want Mangastorian to be revived. Let me know the manga that you want me to read and cover, or even an anime you want me to chit chat with my buddies about. And I'll see you guys next time right here.